Welcome to Blaze News, The Mandate, day 44. I'm Jill Savage. Tonight on the agenda, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has come under scrutiny after he allegedly accidentally included Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, in a high-level group chat about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen. Brian Hughes, he's a spokesperson for the National Security Council. He told The Atlantic on Monday that the group chat appears to be authentic. President Trump also revealed that a staffer on Mike Waltz's team was responsible for adding Goldberg to the group text. Tom Cotton is the chair of the Senate Intel Committee. He explained how Biden approved the use of Signal, and this approval continued through the Trump administration.
It is my understanding that the Biden administration authorized Signal as a means of communication that was consistent with presidential record-keeping requirements for its administration, and that continued into the Trump administration. It's simply another messaging app like the iMessage app on your iPhone or email servers that every administration has set up, in which senior administration officials can communicate with each other.
Top Intel officials testified before the Senate Intel Committee regarding global threats to national security. Democrats tried to use the opportunity as a gotcha moment amid the Signal scandal. However, the pot may have been calling the kettle black.
I don't know if you use Signal messaging app.
I do. Not for classified information, not for targeting.
Well, neither
not
do I,
for
Senator.
Remote.
Neither do I, Senator.
Well, that's what your testimony is today.
It absolutely is not, Senator. Were you not listening at the beginning?
No.
When I said that I was using it as permitted, it is permissible to use.
I agree that's your testimony.
Yeah.
I agree that's your testimony. You asked me if I use it, and I said not for targeting, not for classified information.
And I said I don't either.
As we foreshadowed yesterday, President Trump has officially pardoned Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devon Archer. He also declassified files relating to Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI's investigation into the Russia collusion hoax against Trump.
We believe that it's long past time for the American people to have a full and complete understanding of what exactly is in those files.
Which gives the media the right to go in and check it. You probably won't bother because you're not going to like what you see. But this was total weaponization. It's a disgrace. Should never happen in this country. But now you'll be able to see for yourselves, all declassified. Is that correct? Would you say all declassified?
Yes, sir.
Everything? DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced a partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to end federally funded housing for immigrants who came to the country illegally and ensure that those funds go to American citizens first. HUD Secretary Scott Turner weighed in on this partnership on Fox News.
So much that they prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. And so, as you alluded to before, Secretary Noem and I, we put an end to that yesterday with our partnership and MOU to make sure that the American citizens, American people, are not only prioritized, but they are the only priority when it comes to HUD-funded public housing instead of illegal aliens.
Border czar Tom Homan told Newsmax that his team will keep returning to Boston until all immigrants who came here illegally and committed a crime while here are removed. Homan also spoke about Social Security fraud committed by illegal immigrants.
Well, I'll tell you this, illegal aliens use American Social Security numbers. Together with identity theft, we're looking to protect Social Security. We're looking out to protect United States citizens' identity and their benefits with Social Security. I've done this for a long time. Illegal aliens many times use Social Security numbers, U.S. citizens. It causes a lot of problems. Just identity theft. Even my own family. One of my closest relatives had his ID stolen, his Social Security number stolen. So we're going to look out for the American people. We're going to protect Social Security.
But do you expect them to share? Do you expect IRS to share?
I hope so. I think again, to protect American citizens.
Well, earlier today, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Trump administration will defund Planned Parenthood of tens of millions of dollars in Title X grants as part of the administration's war on DEI. And USPS Postmaster General Louis DeJoy abruptly resigned from his position after reportedly clashing with DOGE. According to Time, DOGE wanted more control than DeJoy wanted to hand over, and he became uncooperative. as a result. With all this, let's go ahead and bring in Blaze News editor-in-chief Matthew Peterson, and MP. I think the Signal story is still the top story of the day. Everybody is continuing to talk about the group chat that nobody thought that a journalist would just accidentally be let in on.
Well, look, I mean, first, it is crazy, it is alarming, and someone's head needs to roll. But I do want to step back a little bit and just talk. I mean, at the top, you had Senator Tom Cotton explaining how Signal was allowed by the Biden administration for government officials to use, and it is allowed now. Here's the problem when it comes to keeping things secret, and it's an age-old problem that's been around for centuries, but you see it in America today with the technology. First off, everything, right, is classified. So they over-classify everything. So then that makes certain rules apply. The other problem is to do official government communication, right, with all the rules and regulations is a huge pain in the you-know-what. So you want your government officials, right, collaborating in an efficient manner. But it becomes a problem when they talk about certain things on the Slack channel or the Signal channel, right? So realize the problem is very human and real. We have to have a way for people to communicate informally. And this is an age-old one, so it's good. I actually think I'm not going to criticize the Biden administration at all for allowing people to use Signal. It makes a hell of a lot of sense because you have to communicate somehow, and if you just go through official channels, it's really inefficient, and then it just makes people thwart the law anyway, right? So having Signal, I don't think, is the problem here. The problem here is this is an egregious, right, lack of judgment, and the fact that Goldberg is even on the someone's message list. Like he's an enemy of the Republic. He's an enemy of Donald Trump anyway, and the administration, and that he's just in there. Yeah, that's a big boo-boo, and someone should get in trouble. And then lastly, if you look at what actually was revealed, it wasn't very much. It wasn't anything, as Tulsi, said, top secret or whatever. It's okay, and it was an interesting conversation. It was so interesting that some people, and respectful that some people thought it was leaked on purpose.
Well, I hope that Signal is encrypted on end-to-end and is as secure as they supposedly say that it is, because now if we have some of the national security secrets going back and forth, I hope it is what they say it is. But we'll continue to unpack the fallout from the Signal incident right after this with Chris Bedford. Well, let's talk about Good Ranchers, because since 2017, over 140,000 family farms have shut down because all the meat in the grocery store now isn't coming from American farms anymore. It's imported from overseas because all they care about is mass production and lower costs. They don't care about quality anymore. So this spring, we need to change it. It's time to spring into action and put American farms first, because we know that nothing beats American quality. And that's why I choose GoodRanchers.com, because they have the integrity and tradition, plus 100% American raised meat. All the products on GoodRanchers.com have trustworthy ingredients, and we know their meat is born, raised, and harvested right here in the United States, so you know exactly where it comes from. It doesn't have any of the antibiotics. There are no hormones. There are no seed oils. It's just one ingredient, and that's meat. Good Ranchers delivers straight to your door, so you can have that true farm-to-table transparency and support American ranchers at the same time and get meat that you feel good about serving. It's clean, simple, exactly the way it should be, and you get to skip the grocery store. So right now, Good Ranchers is running their Spring into Action promotion. So when you subscribe to any of their boxes, you get to decide if you want free chicken nuggets, bacon, ground beef, or salmon in every order for a year. Just be sure to use my code Jill at checkout and get $40 off your first order. It's the best deal that they've ever done. So spring into action and help American farmers with every purchase. Visit GoodRanchers.com now. Use the code Jill for free meat for a year and $40 off. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is under fire for the mainstream media after a Signal chat about Yemeni strikes, which was meant for top intel insiders, accidentally included a journalist from The Atlantic. Now, the leak has reignited concerns over loose lips and who's actually running the show behind the scenes. It's the kind of mistake that raises red flags across the national security world while giving Democrats an opening to attack the Trump administration.
Senator, 2 points here. First of all, there's a difference between inadvertent release versus careless and sloppy, malicious leaks of classified information. The second point is There was no classified information that was on
the
the
information
Signal
committee
group
should get
chat.
that information.
Our senior politics editor, Chris Bedford, is here to break it all down for us. So, Chris, I mean, how did this happen, right? We've been looking at this story now for a day. I just look at this and go, man, this one isn't something that you see every day.
No, and we're still learning more information about exactly what happened here. So my initial take on this is, well, you're not going to have signal on your government phone, so people must have been using their personal phones outside of the SCIFs where they're supposed to be used discussing classified information. But the take that they're pushing out now is that this is actually, signal was installed by the former administration for communication. That still raises questions about record keeping in general. You're supposed to maintain federal records. You can't have your disappearing messages set due between 1 and 4 weeks, as this thread screenshots appear to have them set. There's still that question. Now, they were in the unfortunate position, Republicans, of having a number of these cabinet level secretaries and such already scheduled to be on Capitol Hill to be discussing some important matters of interest to the American people, like the cartels and the illegal immigrant terrorist gangs and things like that. And this got completely sidetracked by that. Now also, the White House is putting out that it wasn't Waltz who actually added the person who appeared to have been added by Waltz, but one of his assistants. So they're going to need names. They're going to need to provide what happened here. You're going to need to see resignations. It's not, when you work for a major political party or candidate or anyone, you can't be the person responsible for multiple cabinet level people being grilled over a dumb mistake on Capitol Hill. It's the first bad news cycle that Democrats have really been able to get their claws into in this whole thing. Now, to put it in perspective, however, it is very much a Beltway sort of story. Jeffrey Goldberg preaches to a very involved set of liberal globalist neoconservatives, not exactly the working class voters the Democrats are trying to reach, but still a very powerful set of people who are making a lot of noise about this. The rest of the country, it may be feeding into the idea that there's not quite the competence you would expect at the top of the Trump administration, but it also may just look like a stupid story over somebody getting accidentally added to a text message chain, and how much hay Democrats can actually make out of that electorally is really questionable.
Yeah, agreed. The larger picture here is a little ridiculous. I mean, in terms of whether people care. In fact, the conversation itself is so good that people think it was faked. There's people saying that this was a leak on purpose because it makes everyone look so good. And of course, that's ridiculous. But what's not ridiculous is that the conversation itself is very interesting. There's nothing, as she said, there's nothing top secret in it. But it's respectful. It shows disagreement. Shows a very interesting kind of deliberation that
with
goes
some
on.
Emojis.
What's that?
The emojis.
With some emojis.
Yeah, with some emojis.
I put those out earlier today on X. I couldn't help it.
But it shows respectful disagreement on Vance's part. It shows back and forth. It's rather interesting and relatively positive at the end of the day. On the other hand, the fact that this happened, I think, does alarm people. It doesn't matter, if it doesn't affect the electorate. There is something alarming here. And let me suggest a couple things, a couple bullet points we should run through. One is this kind of thing happens far more than people think. And everyone knows that it happens in their own lives. But if you talk to people in national security, they will say, as retarded as this is, and it is retarded, right? This does happen more than you want to believe. It's just not at this level with, this level of people involved. Number two is, okay, so then how did it happen? And, I agree with you. It's ultimately going to be on walls, but okay, an assistant did it. Someone's going to have to get fired. And clearly Walz's critics have come out fighting very hard. And you can see them on the right, saying this is an indication that Walz himself isn't fit for the job. And that's another fight that's going to be unfolding, I imagine, over the next year.
Yeah, Walz is someone who has been considered one of the more serious members of the national security team. But he's also someone, of course, generally speaking, in politics and previous administrations, anybody would have to fall on their sword for this. Now, it seems like the Trump administration, properly so, has much more of a war footing with liberal press, where they're not just going to let their enemies pick which among their team get knocked off, like you saw in the first Trump administration. They're not going to give in to that pressure. And President Trump himself has basically treated it, like you said, a simple mistake that didn't really matter. Also, Jeffrey Goldberg's no friend of the administration. He's a serial fabulist and someone who routinely mischaracterizes and inflates things. And I base that on his big story they put out, which was obviously in tandem with Democrats in 2020, where they claimed ridiculously that Donald Trump was going around France attacking and making fun of the Americans who gave their lives in World War I at Belleau Wood. A story which even Trump's critics from within the administration said is absolutely false. So Jeffrey's word does not carry a whole lot of water in Malibu for this White House. But you do have to deal with, where's Waltz going to go from here? He's someone who's got to cling to this job. He just left his seat in Congress, which was a safe, we won by over 30 points, to take this job in the White House. He can't be the first person to fall, so he's not in any hurry to resign himself. And back to that mischaracterization and exaggeration, we're having to take it at Jeffrey Goldberg's word that these were detailed battle plans. I'm curious what they were, and I can see why maybe they're not being shared right now. They were classified. But was this, in 2 hours, F-18s are going to hit the Houthis in Yemen? That's not a detailed battle plan. What exactly was shared over this? And then finally, this was an interesting chat, like you said. I've been on the receiving end on signal groups of internal White House documents that were not supposed to be sent to me. People suddenly, there's total panic that just breaks out. People trying to delete messages, they don't know how to. Or they delete it themselves. It's that weird combination of Gen Z signal chatting with boomer technology understanding that leads to some of these mistakes. But those were significantly less interesting internal documents that there wasn't really a wild story there. It was hard to really figure out. Whereas this chat really lays out what's going on, some of the processes, some of the respectful disagreement, exactly like you said. And then there's this one interesting line where they say they're going to take this to the higher level of communication, which the White House is now saying is in reference to the more actual classified communication channels and the methods by which they would go back and forth to be in line with Department of Defense, Department of State, et cetera, protocols on these. I think you're going to get more questions being asked. Democrats are not going to let go of this. But so far, this White House, which is a credit to it, doesn't seem to be panicking.
Yeah, Donald Trump came out today and said that Mike Waltz he's learned a lesson. He's a good man, but they are going after Waltz, and some of the Democrats are also throwing Pete Hegseth in there because they see the opportunity that's in front of them that says, hey, if we can push back, at least make an argument, right? We might not win this war, but this might be a battle that they want to go through and actually have right now. But when you talk about the loyalty that they have here in this Trump administration versus the first Trump administration, where you think that you have better people, at least in this time around. How do you view that in just these early attacks that they're going to be coming under? Because this isn't going to be the last one. But is this a signal that we should be looking at going forward, that this Trump administration is actually going to stick with these people because they are more loyal?
So far, that seems to be the case. You don't inspire loyalty if you punish and execute your most loyal soldiers, and especially when it's a mistake as opposed to an intentional leak. So if I was Donald Trump, one question I really would have is how exactly Jeffrey Goldberg's contact information was so easily accessible on Signal, and what kind of signaling past Waltz had with Goldberg in the past. Now, of course, he was a congressman before he was in the national security position in the White House, so that could explain it. And Goldberg is, of course, someone who carefully covers the American war efforts, the Department of Defense, et cetera. So that could have been something they were discussing. But how exactly did all these people end up? How did that person end up so easily slipping into your contacts would be the question. But yeah, this administration, we've talked about this a lot on this show, is a sharpened spear compared to the club that was brought around in the first administration. These aren't people who are not really vetted, who are disloyal Republicans. It's not friends from reality television. A lot of these people are significantly more serious. And remember, if we went back 8 years, This was around the time you'd see Jeff Sessions resigning, Mike Flynn resigning. There was a picture on the wall, I remember, at Fox News in one of the offices of the original cabinet, and people were just Xing them off as they dropped one by one and taking bets on who would be next. This administration seems committed to not replaying that sort of turning on each other. And the media's tactics so far haven't always worked. They tried to do this to Elon Musk when they said, oh, he's the real president. He's the real president. And Donald Trump said, listen, I know what game you're trying to play. You're trying to play on my ego. I'm not going to do it. He's not the real president. Everybody knows that. We're not falling for it. This could be another case like that, as long as lessons are learned. Because as you and Matt have both said, this was a deeply stupid mistake.
Well, it's fascinating to me. I mean, it's a great thing on the first count. I think everyone can agree, as Jill was suggesting and you're saying, the administration isn't just freaking out about something like this. They're not falling to the tactic of slaughtering someone for no reason. And also, the internal fighting is much more muted than it was last time. And you can see that this time as well. However, I do want to go back to the fact that there are people, you can see them outside the administration, who are suspicious of Waltz and see him as something representing the neocon, neocon foreign policy in some way. And so that's part of this for the audience at home following along. They see Waltz as, not fully trustworthy, perhaps on a full MAGA agenda, maybe not so much leaning in the Vance side of that camp. And tensions are good, healthy tensions are good. But what was interesting to me was in even the conservative press, how many people came running out to say, look what an idiot Walz is. Of course, he did this because he does have enemies on that side. And you can see the tension in foreign policy there. And, these are good, healthy things in any administration, in my view. But the fact that you laid out earlier is something that is still a question mark and will be used in the future, I would predict. And that is, how in the hell, of all people, right, is Goldberg on there? And why is his number so readily available? And there are already people speculating about, that's who, Walz uses to leak and so forth and so on. It's just what people are saying. So that's the kind of palace intrigue, though, that I'm comfortable with and I'm comfortable talking about, here on the show, because it's situation normal. We're not in some crazy place where, the administration's freaking out because of the left, or you have really radical, nutty stuff going on inside. This is typical. It almost feels like we're back in a normal Washington, D.C., no?
Oh, it does. And for your normal D.C. update from me, we're so back to normal that all of the left-wing posters that are constantly plastered all over Capitol Hill, I don't understand any of them. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what's got them so up in arms about whatever issues they are. You have to scan a QR code. I don't even recognize some of the faces on it. It seems like we're back in the early 2000s with that, when this left-wingers plastering posters that no one really knows what the heck they're talking about except for the small clique that made the posters. Now, that's a nice return to normalcy. And yeah, if there is one journalist out there who's not going to leak this to the Houthis, it's the guy who served in the Israeli military as a prison guard during an intifada, Jeffrey Goldberg. He's not exactly on the Houthis' side. But just to your point, he's also not on J.D. Vance's side. And it certainly seems like, you could see from that chat, neither is Hegseth necessarily. He's certainly more hawkish than Vance is. Vance seems to be the only person in the administration, and it's a good thing he did so respectfully, considering that this all got leaked. He said, hey, maybe this attack isn't actually in line with what we're trying to accomplish as this administration. Maybe the Europeans ought to be doing this, since only 2% of American maritime trade goes through there, but 40% of European trade goes through there. And then you see the interesting back and forth with Hegseth saying, yeah, I'm sick of that too. Mm-hmm. But literally none of them have the ability to launch a concerted strike against the Houthis that the United States has. So it's kind of on us, at least for the time being, to deal with that. That kind of airing of grievances, in the end, though, is so much more preferable to what was seen every single day in the press in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020.
I never thought that I would say the sentence, Jeffrey Goldberg might be better than myself. But here I am, because there is absolutely no way that I would have been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to remove myself from this group chat now. I would have been like, I want the tea. I want to know. They don't know I'm here. I'm going to see how long it takes them to figure it out. I have no idea why, as a journalist, as an editor-in-chief, our editor-in-chief is sitting right here next to me. 0% chance I am taking myself out of that group chat. 0. You?
And I'm still wondering who Jeffrey Goldberg was supposed to be. Who is the JG who was who the aide thought that they were adding? Everyone else you can kind of figure out. Some of them are using initials. I think there's an SM, for example, that people assume is Stephen Miller. But who was this mysterious JG, and where are they now?
Now, I don't know about Chris, but I would have. There's a chance I would have taken myself out, but not for the sake of national security. It would have been because I'd be like, oh my gosh, another damn chat group just popped up. I need to remove myself from this thing. I'm on too many of them already. But otherwise, yeah, sure. If you're a journalist there, you might sit there for a while. And then I would want a hilarious moment if I thought people were going into, real secret stuff. Can you imagine how great it would be just to break into the chat with a inappropriate joke? Would be incredible.
Listen, at least we can sit here and laugh about it now.
I don't think I've ever been able to resist the inappropriate joke. Like the time I was there was an open press list on the plans for Mayor for Life, Marion Barry's funeral. I mean, you're going to miss the chance to reply all? I don't think so.
This is like the Gen Z version of reply all on the email. Bedford, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
Oh, is MAHA actually making a difference right now in America's healthy food choices? We'll have 4-Minute Buzz host Hilary Kennedy break it down next. Could RFK Jr.'s MAHA movement ban candy and soda from food stamps? Well, 15 states have put forth bills asking the federal government to allow cuts to be made to the SNAP food program. So here to break all of this down for us is BlazeTV host of the 4-Minute Buzz, Hilary Kennedy. So Hilary, thanks so much for coming in, because I know that you love this topic. Like, this is something that you're personally invested in. So I love when we get people on the show like that, because when we look at this MAHA movement, is there a chance to actually go through and make America healthier?
Absolutely. And they are off to the races. Things are actually finally really happening. And I think making changes to the SNAP program, otherwise known as food stamps, it's going to make a big impact long term if they can stick with this. And one of the main things, and RFK Jr. talked about this when they were running for election, is that they want to get rid of sugary sodas being one of the things that you can buy with food stamps, because we know that they're bad for you. But the soda companies are not going down without a fight, so they have now recruited conservative influencers to try and tell you your freedoms are being restricted if you can't get soda. So there's an investigative journalist named Lee Fang, and he exposed this covert campaign by the soda industry to kind of influence public opinion against these proposed nutritional guidelines to the SNAP program. Now, it's been uncovered, and we've realized that these conservative influencers were being paid up to $1,000 to post saying, soda's really not that bad for you. Like, this is America. We should be able to choose whatever we want. When we know that drinking sugary sodas is not good for anybody. Now, we live in a free country. It is totally your right if you want to drink sugary sodas, but it's definitely not helping the MAHA movement when you have these influencers parroting what they're being told by a PR firm.
It's an instructive moment, isn't it? Because this is exactly the problem. First off, SNAP, I mean, you're giving money to people so they can buy food. Well, then you have every right to tell them what they can buy and not buy with the money you're giving them. And you'd want them to buy healthy food. I mean, this is not even, I shouldn't even debate in my mind. But the problem comes, don't you think, when even people on the right are posting, and part of the reason they found these posts is because they were all posting the same thing. They took the bullet points, give me the check, I'll copy and paste it. And my interpretation of it was something like this. It went along like this. Hello, fellow MAGA influencer. Freedom is good. Soda is freedom. Therefore, soda is good. I mean, that was the argument. People should be free to do what they want with our money. The reaction to this, though, suggests that maybe we are moving forward. I mean, because there's a tension between big corporate paying off people
Yes.
in this whole dynamic. So how do you read, what's the aftermath of this?
Well, so some of the soda companies, we've seen them do this before, where they were paying people to protest at these rallies where I believe it was in San Francisco, they were proposing a tax on sweetened beverages. And so the soda companies were paying people like $13 an hour to go out and protest that. But the smart soda companies are now trying to pivot a little bit and go, okay, so if people aren't wanting to drink sweetened sodas, they're realizing they want to take control of their health. What can we do? So PepsiCo just acquired Poppi, which is kind of one of those alternative soda brands. It's a probiotic for $1.65 billion. They also bought Siete Foods, which is also a healthier kind of potato chip brand. I think they make tortillas and some other things. So I brought for you to try, it's Olipop, which is also another one of those brands. I believe it's like 5 grams of sugar, 35 calories. So you can try it and tell me what you think. But people, it's not quite the same as your traditional soda, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because we are trying to make some healthier choices these days. So yeah, you have to let me know what you think.
Yeah, so I had the classic grape. He has the root beer because I hate root beer. And so, sorry, that's the one you got.
And the ones that you're drinking, so this Olipop, it's a prebiotic soda. It recently hit a $1.85 billion valuation after turning a profit for the very first time with $400 million in sales. So Coca-Cola put out some research saying functional beverages like these, they're supposed to generate about $2 billion in sales by 2029. So everything is kind of shifting in this direction, which I think is fantastic.
This is 40 calories, 5 grams of sugar, 10% juice. I'll say it's pretty good. Like, honestly, for just a grape soda.
It's kind of like
good.
When you eat a veggie burger.
Yeah, no.
It's not going to taste like the regular.
But this actually doesn't, like this, I wouldn't notice if you just threw this in versus like a different grape soda. Like maybe it has less carbonation than the rest of them. But otherwise, like taste-wise, it's very similar.
Mine only has 35 calories.
Wow.
You knew I needed some extra help. It's very interesting to me that it's good. I mean, it doesn't taste like root beer at the Pizza Hut when you were 5 in the 80s. But
nothing does.
But it is good. You could see drinking it, getting used to it. It's good stuff. We've had this before in our house. So the valuations though are telling a tale, right? I mean, it sounds like what's going on is big corporate is realizing people want this sort of thing.
Yes.
And these that's why the valuations are so high. They see the market value and how they have to shift. Does that mean they're going to become good or?
I don't know if they're going to become good, but I do think they realize we're willing to spend our dollars on these kinds of items because we know it's better for us in the long run. So this is a slightly more expensive soda than getting, say, a Coca-Cola. But there are also restaurants like Steak and Shake. They are now going to be using beef tallow. They're not using the harmful seed oils anymore. Is that going to cost them more in the long run? Yes, instead of using, the cheap oils that the other restaurants have used. But are we willing to pay more for that now, knowing that it will be less in medical bills later? I think most people will. So I think it's a smart thing for these companies to make this move. Sweet Greens is another company that it was already kind of a healthy, quick serve restaurant. But they have also decided to make their fries with tallow and healthier oils. People love that. They said that they did it because they heard from the customers, and same thing with Steak and Shake. This was a bold move for them. Their CEO or COO, Dan Edwards, he said, "We don't try to be all things to all people. That's the surest way to disappoint. Our job is to give customers the absolute best of burgers, fries, and shakes. It's an individual's job to decide on what's healthy for them." But on social media, they said, "Nothing will stop our crusade to lead in the MAHA movement," alongside with an image of a red baseball cap reading, "Make frying oil tallow again." So he said they love the taste of it. And if you've ever had fries done in tallow versus like a whatever other oil, canola oil or whatever it is, they do taste much better.
And this is going back to the 1985 McDonald's in this case, right?
Yes.
I mean, they, at some point they switched out of tallow and it was worse for everybody.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So I look at a company like Siete, you mentioned them earlier, because my other super healthy friends were very upset when they were purchased by, big industry here. Do we think, though, that they're actually going to stick with the changes, like the healthier food that they've essentially made already? Or is these big businesses, are they going to come through and say, okay, but we need to make things cheaper, faster, more efficient, and actually take away all the things that we liked about these brands in the first place.
I think they could try, but this day and age, people are watching like hawks now. I think they could have gotten away with it 10 years ago, not anymore. People are paying attention to what's on the labels, what ingredients they're ingesting, and they're looking to see, are we going to hold these brands accountable or not? And there's power in numbers. And if we're all watching and we see that they're changing, I mean, because who is it? Was it Chick-fil-A? Someone recently just tweaked their recipe a little bit and people flipped out because everybody is now paying attention. So I think they could try and get away with it, but it's not going to fly and people will speak with their dollars for sure.
So let's talk about seed oils a little bit. What is the problem with seed oils? I mean, this is an incredible thing to see this going from something that maybe, health nuts knew in the 70s. My parents, I guess I could include among them, they were aware of this. And you saw it grow in sort of online corners, the last 8 years or so. And now you have, restaurants saying we're seed oil free.
Yeah, I think, it really got popular on podcasts in the last several years when people were talking about, I work out, I eat healthy, but I cannot lose weight. And there were a couple of dietitians and nutritionists that were kind of on the fringes that said, it's the seed oils. If you stop eating the seed oils, because it's in all of the, quote, healthy foods. So, I mean, I buy lots of things from Central Market, Whole Foods, healthier Sprouts, healthier grocery stores, but seed oils are in 90% of what I buy. And I think it is true. It is making it harder for Americans and people all over the world to lose weight. But we see it in our products here in America primarily. So these restaurants are hearing from customers saying, you know what, I've been doing some research on these. I keep hearing about them on TV and in podcasts. This is not good for me. What do you have on your menu that doesn't contain seed oils? And they're scrambling to figure out like, okay, do we ditch it all together? Do we use the tallow? And so a lot of restaurants are slowly making that change. I mentioned Steak and Shake. There's some more besides Sweet Greens. There's a couple, was it Jimmy John's? There's a couple of different quick serve places that are making those changes because people are going to go where they get Outback Steakhouse, Popeyes, and Buffalo Wild Wings. A lot of them have either been using beef tallow for years or they're now slowly heading that direction. I think it's great.
So there's something else that's super controversial, right? That's fluoride. And we know that Utah is set to ban fluoride in the drinking water. So what is damaging about fluoride? What do we know about it? What does it do?
Okay, so RFK Jr. went on X and he actually posted about this saying fluoride is an industrial waste associated with arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, and thyroid disease. There's been all these studies that show that children who have a lot of exposure to fluoride have lower IQs. So he's saying this should not be in our water. If you want to fluoridate your water yourself, go for it. But we shouldn't be forcing people to drink fluoridated water, knowing what we know now about it. So the Utah legislature passed HB 81, which would make Utah the very first state to ban fluoride in public drinking water, which I also think is a pretty bold move.
Yeah, this used to be something that everyone called a conspiracy theory, and now, I don't know what the truth is, but I wouldn't be surprised if RFK isn't right about it.
All of our conspiracy theories are coming true now, Peterson. That's the problem.
Yes, no, exactly. Every day that goes by, it does. So what's interesting about this is just this clearly is a movement, right? It's clearly a cultural shift that's being instantiated or being solidified by RFK Jr. being in the Trump administration. And now you're seeing all these people make moves and actually do things along these lines. And it looks to me like it's just growing. It's not facing a lot of obstacles. Do you think?
No, it hasn't been. And I think that this is what we needed. We needed one trusted voice in the administration that people respected, admired, and who comes across as pretty bipartisan, and RFK Jr. fits that bill. And I think people really respect what he has to say on these issues. And he's not an extremist. Right. He's someone he's very moderate on a lot of his views, and I think people really respect that. He's not some kind of wacko hippie fringe person that you look at and you go, I don't know. He really knows his stuff. And so I think that's why a lot of these cities and these states are taking him seriously and going, you know what? People are listening to him. We better listen to him too and make changes accordingly.
People are getting healthy. Let me ask you, do you use the text message app Signal?
I don't.
Oh, all right. Well, then you're going to be safe from the next thing that we're going to be talking about.
I want to be involved in a scandal.
It's been the topic of the day. Hilary, thanks so much for coming in. Because we will be talking about the infamous Signal chat, and we'll unpack Mike Waltz's statements on the story right after this. Well, you've heard us talk about it all day. So what has National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said about the Signal chat story that's monopolized all these headlines? Earlier today, Waltz weighed in on the leak, saying that there is a lesson to be learned. Watch.
Yes, Mr. President, you asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with. And we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump a favor.
There it is. I feel like it's kind of like that parent with a kid and they're, oh, this is a lesson to be learned, child. It's okay. We'll get through this. Nothing bad really happened this time, but don't do it again. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Trump kind of said, he's a good guy. I mean, he used words along those lines. Like, you could also sort of sense, don't let it happen again. Obviously, these things do happen. As I said earlier, they happen more than you think. But something about this just catches everyone's interest because of the people involved. And the fact that you had someone who is so lefty. So, I mean, there you see Waltz saying he's never talked to Goldberg before, right? So, all right, well, good. That would be good. They should investigate how this happened. If an assistant did it, they should be fired. But no harm, no foul. I mean, this wasn't, nothing big happened, and they didn't talk about hugely secret stuff.
You're in more group chats than I am. I know this. But the only Signal group chat that I have is actually with you and Bedford for the show. And let me tell you guys, there's no classified information in there. I will say probably the best thing that's ever come out of that group chat is now the infamous Bedford bar crawl, right? That's the best information I think that has ever been in our group chat.
That's true. Look, I've been using Signal for a while, for many years. And the reason in the beginning for Signal that everyone used is because WhatsApp, everyone felt like was compromised. So, WhatsApp, the Chinese are going to read you. At the time, and he thought, well, I'd rather just the Americans read me. No, just funny joke, NSA. I'm sure it's fine. Now, Signal is interesting to me because eventually all these things become just like SMS, just like text. At first, you think, I need something that's secure. I'm having a lot of communication that needs to be secure with a lot of different people. And so you hop on, and then you think, well, over time, okay, it's not secure anymore. And so you do one of two things. You keep on moving and trying, or you just settle in and say, I don't care if the NSA reads my text. Go right ahead. And this is a dynamic you see playing out all over. Now, on Signal itself, opinion varies. It's hard for me to believe the most powerful governments in the world can't break into pretty much anything they want to. But there are lots of people in tech who will assure me all these years, and I'm very skeptical. Oh, no, Matt, it's great. It works. It is encrypted. They're for real. They'll protect information. I don't think you can ever think, and you shouldn't be teaching your kids this too, anything you do on the internet is public. You should just internalize that. But that being said, human beings are what they are, and we continue to do it anyway.
Well, we're so thankful that we had Hilary Kennedy come in and she brought us these beverages earlier, and they are really good, right? But it is part of a bigger movement. It's not just the MAHA movement that we're seeing right now, MP. It's more of a cultural shift. It's a way of life thing that we're really looking into now and trying to address the root issues of everything.
Yeah, as I sip on this Olipop, which, by the way, they're not sponsoring us, but you really should. I mean, look, I'm Mr. Vanna White.
He is. He can sell the products.
Maybe go to Hillary. But look, what we're talking about here, it's not just silly, small little stuff like, oh, we're going to have healthier drinks and whatever. These are connected to really big issues. Having healthier food is connected, obviously, to the quality of your life throughout the rest of your life. Having healthier food is a huge issue because we are not eating healthy and people are dying in ways that should be embarrassing for a first world country. And what you see happening is people are rethinking how they were living. We just came out of a very oppressive time, a time of sort of tyranny, totalitarian regime pressing down upon us. You had to think a certain way. And now you see people rethinking how they should live. And this extends through all walks of life. So all the beverages, yes, all the food, all the drinks, everything's being questioned and people are looking for best practices. That's something that you can take to the bank. You should feel good about this. If you're younger, you should be looking for jobs on this basis. In tech, in finance, and throughout the business sector, people are rethinking how we should do really basic stuff, including, in the workplace. How should that work? When you look at how people view the path to success, that used to be clear. You knew the kinds of firms you were supposed to work with, the kind of college you were supposed to go to. That's not clear anymore, and that's very, very exciting because it means that innovation and all kinds of great stuff could be in store if we all sort of take it upon ourselves to explore a little bit and to start to question along with this movement and look for solutions.
Well, if you look at the Department of Education being dismantled, then that opens up everything in education.
Yes.
And then, okay, well, the original path was you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job. Well, that's all being, metaphorically blown up at this point in time. That's not necessarily going to be the de facto moving forward. So this is an exciting time. And we have a moment in history right now where we get to shape how we want the future to actually look.
Oh yeah, I mean, the young friends who are creating companies to make small nuclear reactors, right? You couldn't even have thought of that because that's a bad thought. Because nukes are bad, and we need electric cars until Elon came along. Then that became a problem too. But you knew that the zeitgeist, the kind of oppressive mentality of the left, wouldn't let you think along those lines. Where you have these guys. So we did an article in The Last Frontier, which you all should own, where they're in El Segundo, California, right, creating cloud seeding technology in case of drought to micro-target and make it rain where it's needed. And then you have people creating fire, right, miniature nuclear reactors to make everything go. These are kids who are thinking big, right? And it's going to reshape the way in which we live our lives. So when it comes to education, exactly. I know a ton of people now with kids just coming into college age, and the college age kids, including my own daughter, are saying, why exactly am I going to school? That's good. They're asking that question. And so in that context, you should all feel good about the fact that we do have open space to reframe an American way of life that makes sense. Just don't be complacent about it. Be curious. Just look around for answers, and by all means, act when you're unhappy in your situation, because there's a ton of opportunity right now, and we need everyone working together to shape something that actually works moving forward.
And we could just ask Grok whatever we need to learn at this point in time. So do we need to spend $100,000 and go to a 4-year college and get a degree? I don't know.
Well, in most cases, it is an absolute waste of time. But there's still a place for formal education. But yeah, most of these places are just temples to wokeness anyway. So
the new American way of life. It's one of Peterson's favorite things, and we get to shape it here. And that's kind of the fun part about what we do here on The Mandate. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.